Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Let's see if we can get live over here on Instagram. There we go. Okay. How is everybody today? Happy Wednesday. We are back. We're here. We've got a guest today. I got to get my volume down. Sorry, it's shaking a little bit, but I don't want my volume to come on. So say hi, say hello. Let us know where you're watching from, what you're working on. Hi, Julia from sunny Maryland. It is great to have you here joining us today. I'm starting to see people come in, which is great. Hopefully you can hear me. If not, let me know. We have a guest here to talk about a brand new collection launch. These are patterns you do not want to miss out on. Let me tell you, I have about every one on my list. I'm trying to narrow it down because there's no way I have time to do them all once you start to see them. So yeah, let's just jump in and get started. Hi, Cindy from North Carolina. Great to have you here. Hey, Chris. Chris is here this morning. That's amazing. Hi, Donna from Alabama. Great to have you as well. We're so excited to have you. Reminder, if you have any questions along the way, throw them in the chat either on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, and we'll do our best to answer them in the order that they come in, and we'll get to you so that you have all the answers that you need. All right, let me bring in our special guest. Today, we have Tanya of the Cozy Knot. Hi, Tanya.
Hey.
How are you?
Here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you back. It's been a while since you've been here, but that's for good reason. You've been working on something really big that we are so excited to be able to share with everybody today. I'm so excited.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a long time, and I've been very quiet everywhere because all of my time is being spent behind the scenes working on this collection. So
Yeah.
It's good to be back out into the world, I
guess. Yeah. You have to remember how all this works, right?
Yes.
So Tanya's brand new collection is launching on Monday, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, I'm like saying yes Monday, but I mean it might delay a couple of days. It's just Monday is the goal, yes.
Monday's the goal. So the best thing to do, go follow the Cozy Knot so that you know exactly when it's coming out. But this is the launch of the Heritage Collection, which is a collection of sweaters, garments, shawls, hats, accessories, kind of everything that you need to be making a fall and winter wardrobe. And guys, the garments are fabulous. They are so beautiful. I'm so excited that we got to work with Tanya for all of these projects, and she's going to share some of them today so that we get a sneak peek of what is going on. Yeah, Lindsay says there are not enough hours in the day to make all the items I want to. Yeah, I know. Sometimes I want to like reach out to these designers and be like, could you please slow down a little bit so I can catch up? Because I still have projects from that you made 3 years ago. I'm still on my list trying to make them.
At least you got the one done.
Yes.
Cardigan.
This is like one of my favorite cardigans to wear. So this is the homebody cardi from Tanya. It's available on crochet.com that you can get the pattern there, or you can check it out over with Tanya and on Ravelry and everywhere else, depending on where you want to purchase it. It is one of my favorite patterns. It's one of the hexagon patterns that then you turn into the cardigan. I just love it. I love it so much. It's the perfect layering piece. I wear it all the time as the weather starts to get cooler. I'm like praying that the weather gets cooler. We're still having pretty warm weather right now. And today it dropped just enough. I was like, it's going on. It has to go on.
Happening. Yeah.
So let's start talking through some of the designs that you have in the collection. Actually, maybe before we jump into that, what kind of inspired you to make this collection in the first place?
Okay, so actually last year I did a collaboration with Katelyn at Originally Lovely, and I was a part of her Adventures of Life collection. And I designed what was called the Heritage Cardigan. And so that cardigan, it's almost like a coatigan. It really, while I was working on that piece, it really inspired all of these ideas and this general theme of like nostalgic texture, traditional, classic with kind of this modern twist. And it really just kind of sparked and took off from there. And then I kind of was writing down ideas I came up with about like 10 different kind of ideas, designs that I had kind of in my head. And then you and I kind of worked through those a little bit. And so that's pretty much how it started and where it came from. And it was really about like everyday wearable pieces um, that are really like heirloom quality, season after season, year after year. And then it's a bit of a capsule type wardrobe in a sense too. And a lot of like you'll notice everything was very intentional. You'll notice in the photographs that I've been releasing, I'm wearing the same pair of pants and essentially the same tank top in every single picture. And it's because the pieces really shine on their own. They don't need different pieces. They don't need really different pants. I mean, you could have a couple of pairs of pants, some basic layering essentials, white tank top, white tee, gray tee, something like that, a long sleeve tee. And then this pretty much will carry you throughout the fall and winter season. And you can kind of layer even some of these pieces. And then all of these pieces do kind of have common threads moving through them to kind of make them more cohesive while being very individualistic. So like maybe a stitch or a style or something that kind of gets carried from maybe a couple of the pieces. So they all work together a little bit. And then there's an accessories kind of portion, and then there's a garment portion, and then the collection as a whole. And the accessories contain 2 hats and beanies, and then 2 scarves / shawls / wraps, however you want to use them. They're very multifunctional. And then the garments, there's 2 sweaters. I gotta count on my fingers here. 2 sweaters, a button up, like a half button up, a cardigan, a jacket, and a vest and a vest. So that's kind of the collection and kind of where it came from.
Yeah. I have to say too, like, I know you're talking about it being like a capsule collection. You don't need a ton of pieces, but I love that all of these pieces, I don't know. I find them to be so gorgeous that you really could dress them up with a pair of dress slacks to go to something a little bit more dressy, like a special lunch or going to work. But they're also like beautiful enough and casual enough that you can throw them on with a pair of jeans and you're not going to look overdressed going to like the soccer game or, whatever else it might be. So I love the pieces for that versatility.
Yeah, you could do sneakers, boots, linen pants, a trouser, jeans, shorts, like, kind of whatever you want with these. You can do, work, grocery store errands, coffee shop, hanging out at home, being cozy with a pair of like joggers. Like, I mean, they could really kind of go anywhere. It's kind of, very versatile.
Yeah. Okay, so instead of asking you what your favorite pattern is, because I know that's like asking which is your favorite child to somebody, let's do what pattern did you write first, or which one kind of was the first one that you did?
So what I did was I kind of worked from easiest to hardest because I wanted to get the easy things out of the way so I knew how much time I would have to work on the things that I thought were going to be the most complicated. So that was kind of my thought. So I actually worked on, this is the banister shawl, and it's a series of undulating like eyelet lace texture, baubles, and ribbing.
I love the texture on this one.
Really, yeah. At first I wasn't so sure about it, but then it grew on me so hard. And then when I took the pictures last week, I was like, okay, this actually might be one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And this is in Swish Bulky. So although the stitch is a little tedious and somewhat complicated, it works out fairly quickly because of the bulky yarn. And once you get the pattern repeats down, the stitch repeats down, it's really not that bad. And additionally, it's pretty easy to customize because there's row repeats. And so you could, if you want a thinner scarf, like you could do a scarf. You could even just keep going and turn this into a blanket if you
That's what I was thinking. It would be a beautiful blanket.
So, that's pretty versatile, but this is the one that I worked on first. And then I kind of worked on my first garment that I worked on was, it's called the basil pullover, and this is the most basic piece in the collection. It's got a really wide hem,
I
really
love that.
wide cuff,
Yeah.
and it's a real boxy fit.
Is that a rolled collar?
Yep, almost all of them have fold over collars.
I love it.
Except the vest, it does not, because it
Okay.
was just a little bit too much bulk for a vest.
Right.
So I kept that flat. But otherwise, the rest of them have fold over collars, and this one's just very basic. Most of the patterns are going to be intermediate to advanced level.
Okay.
And so they're not projects. These are very intentional, slow fashion kind of projects, rituals, so to speak, that you can do on a daily basis to like chill out at the end of the day, things like that. It's really about slowing down. It's not about getting necessarily a finished piece, although I think the finished pieces are beautiful. It's really about the process of crocheting and about just slowing down in such a fast-paced world and everything going on. Just I think just slowing down is really important. So some people will be like, well, I want to finish a sweater in like a week. And I'm just like, not going to happen with my pattern. Sorry, I might not be the designer for you if you want quick projects. That's just not my style.
But your patterns are very thoughtful, and they really do take into consideration how things are going to fit people, and to make it look like a off the runway type of fashion piece, as opposed to, I don't want to put other pieces down, but it definitely has like the structure to it and the shaping to it and everything else, so it looks like more of a fitted garment when you're finished.
Yeah, like cuffs and collars are not afterthoughts. They're very intentional additions. Like the one that I'm wearing, this is the perennial pullover. And this is the most oversized piece in the collection. It's very roomy and slinky. And this one has shoulder shaping. So you get rid of a lot of that big bulk here that happens with straight shoulder. But this one has a very wide neckline. And I usually put on a standard sweater, usually about 1.5 inches wide collar. But this one, I put that on and it looked ridiculous. I have no idea why, it just did. So I had to rip out the whole collar and I put a thicker, chunkier collar on here. And I don't know if it was this ribbing is just so like bold that a smaller collar was just too, it didn't match. So I ended up, just things like that. I think those details and how the pieces come together, where you end a piece and how you start the next section. I think all of that stuff is just, all those details are, I think, very important. And so I think about the process of crocheting, but also all the little details and how they function against the rest of the piece. So,
before we keep looking at projects, I do want to make sure that we also cover. So we talked about the collection is coming out next week, but let's also remind people about the early bird specials that they can get if they go ahead and purchase right away. So I'm sure by now you've said, oh, I love this. I need to get this. I'm going to put it on my calendar to go ahead and get it. But there's even more reason to grab it right when it comes out. So why don't you tell us how that kind of pricing is going to work right when it launches?
Yes. Okay. So like I mentioned, there's the collection as a whole, then there's the accessories portion of the collection and the garments portion of the collection. So that's how I'm releasing it initially. And because I know garments can be overwhelming for some people, so they may not want the garment portion and just the accessories. And then some people, vice versa, would rather not have the accessories and really love working on garments, or you can buy the whole thing. So if you buy the entire collection, you get 30% off. I'm doing a longer launch. Usually for individual patterns, it's like 48 hours. I give discount codes and blah, blah. But this time I'm doing 2 weeks because it is a larger purchase. So the whole collection will be 30% off. Then each individual smaller collection will be an additional 25% off.
Okay.
And then on top of that, if you buy just the accessories collection, there's going to be a free scarf pattern, another accessory included in that, just as a bonus. And then on the garment side, I'm actually including the heritage cardigan that
Okay.
kind of sparked the interest for this whole thing. You will get that one free with the garments. And then if you buy the whole thing, you get both of them for free.
Awesome.
But that's only for the first 2 weeks, and the individual patterns will trickle out later on.
Perfect.
It kind of decreased the overwhelm a little bit. It allows me some time, and then I can also include the more bonuses or whatever and the free patterns
Right.
and more options by doing just the collection up front as a whole. So I know
Right.
that might make a few people mad, like, oh, I really want this one, but
Yeah.
they'll be coming.
It's coming.
Yeah, they'll trickle out.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, so that's super exciting. So there's many different ways. And I love how you broke it up between garments and accessories, because you're right. Some people are just not there yet, that don't want to jump into into garments yet. Or some people just don't make garments. Like, it's okay
Mhm.
if you don't make sweaters. You got to make what like makes you happy and what sparks joy for you. And
Mhm.
accessories are wonderful. So you can get
Mhm.
either collection, or you can grab it or I shouldn't say collection, but you can get either grouping, or you
Mhm.
can get the whole collection together, so you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do, which is really awesome. And you get those great freebies as well. So mark it on your calendar, sign up for the mailing list, get and follow on Instagram, make sure you know what's going on so you don't miss out on those first 2 weeks.
Mhm. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, can you show us another project that's in the collection?
Yes. I think let's actually go to the jacket, because
Okay.
this is the last piece I did, and I was kind of like, I was actually debating not even. I was debating on throwing it out, but once I finished it, I was like, okay, I kind of love this one. And so it's with this is Fluff of the Andes, and I never work in bulky weights. I mean, the banister shawl was bulky, and that's a rarity for me. I usually hang
Yeah,
out in the DK sport range a lot. Um, but this one
I love
is
it.
is like super bulky, and
The
it's super.
texture is amazing.
Yes. I really hesitated with the texture a little bit, because I thought the ribbing might be too bold and too much. But it actually turned out okay. And then when I got the toggles on, y'all,
That looks
like
amazing.
those cute little toggles. Like, I don't know. I've never done toggles before, but it really finished off the piece in a really great way. And
Yeah.
so this is actually and there's shoulder shaping on this too, which I felt was necessary for such a bulky weight yarn, um, to remove some of that weight in the armpit area.
Right.
So this actually, it's a very wearable piece, and it's not like sometimes when you can work with really bulky yarns, sometimes you can get some weird gapping in the stitches or things like that. Like, it's almost
Right.
like not wearing it because air just goes right through it.
Yeah.
But this one isn't really the case. I try to use as small of a hook as I can possibly use and get away with without compromising texture, weight, drape, shape, all of that, to avoid gaps and things like that. So this one kind of, it worked out. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm like, nope, yeah, we're not going to leave that one out.
I love it. We do have a question about getting close-ups of the items. I just want to remind everybody, if you head over to the Cozy Knot on Instagram, Tanya has been posting for the past couple days each one of these patterns individually. It shows her wearing it. As you swipe through, you'll get like a close-up of the texture of the pattern and things like that. So go ahead and check that out if you want to get a better view of any of these patterns. That's really going to be the best way to see it, is with those kind of static images that you can see. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. Cool. And I know somebody is saying over here on Instagram that it's a little bit hard to see Yes, on Instagram, the way that they put the images, they're, like, next to each other instead of on top of each other. I can't do anything about that, and so, yes, there is a comment or a suggestion in there about going over to YouTube or go over to Facebook because then you'll be able to turn it landscape and see the full thing. So, sorry guys, that's one of the things about Instagram that unless you're live through their platform, they don't allow you to go top and bottom. They make you go side to side. It's fun. Okay, so we talked about one of the shawls. We talked about some of the garments. Let's show off a hat.
Mhm. So the two hats in the collection are, this is the Abide beanie, and this is the Timeless toque.
I have to say, like, okay, so I know you've done a bunch of hats before, and these
Mhm.
two are no exception. I can't believe the hats that you put out are crochet. I just can't.
Yeah.
They don't look crochet like ever. And I'm
Mhm.
always so amazed by that. And they look like they could be store-bought knit hats. They're just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I just love, I mean, short row shaping. Like a lot of people find short rows confusing if they've never done it before. But literally all a short row is stopping short of the end of the previous row
Right.
and leaving stitches unworked. That's all a short row is. So the short row shaping really allows you to create, and for hats a lot of times they're like wedges. They're
Mhm.
these mirrored wedges where you have little steps, and that's what kind of shapes the crown of the hat. And so yeah, and I mean, I will say, I mean, I love slip stitches. I used to hate them, just like I know a lot of other people hate them. I used to hate them, but once you become fluent, so to speak, in slip stitches, they go quite quickly.
Yeah.
And so this one is half double crochet slip stitches, which are a little less tedious, whereas this one is slip stitches. So and then mixed with a few half double crochet slip stitches to create just a slight bit of detail here that kind of separates those quadrants of the hat.
I
But
love it.
otherwise, yeah. I wanted to keep them fairly basic.
Mhm.
I didn't want them too stylized, but on the Abide beanie, I did add the bobble detail a little bit just to carry, because the only place I had the bobbles was on the banister shawl, so I did
Okay.
want a little bit of bobbles somewhere else. And
Right.
so that's where it came in here. But you could honestly just forgo the bobbles, like pretend they're
Sure.
not there and keep working through, and you would just get a super basic ribbed hat here.
Yeah.
Um, so
I love it. And hats are such a great option if you're making a gift for somebody or, you want a travel project that kind of just hangs in the car with you
mhm,
or,
yeah.
whatever else. They're just so great to always have kind of going.
Mhm,
I mean, I'll admit, I know everybody always talks about like sock knitting and always have a sock in your bag and you can
mhm,
always take it with you. I don't knit socks. It's not
yeah.
something I really have a desire to do, but
Mhm.
hat making is
Right.
on the list, and so that makes it really easy to just grab a little bag with, like, 1 ball of yarn in it and your project, and you're ready to go.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. And it's something that's a little bit quicker, even though it's slip stitches, it's still much, much, much quicker than doing like a garment or something like that.
Yeah. And I will
So,
say too, so I know um, one time was working on a pattern and it used a slip stitch ribbing at the bottom, and I absolutely hated it, and I stopped making it, and I didn't do it because I was like, "I can't get this. This is too tight." I was using a fingering weight yarn, so that was maybe it. I went and I practiced just doing slip stitches with a larger weight yarn and kind of stepped myself down to smaller and smaller, and it really does make a difference because it really is in all about your tension when you're working
mhm,
a slip stitch. And, you can't, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I find I can't be like watching something on TV. I've got to be focusing on what I'm doing. So as I do my slip stitch row, I'm not pulling too tight so that I
mhm,
can't get into it in the next round or row.
right. Right. And that's actually a really good point. Like when you say that you have to be focusing on your work. So, I mean, so many things can throw your tension off. It's unbelievable. Like doing crocheting in the car versus just doing it sitting on the couch will throw your tension off. If you
Yep.
hold your project up in crochet, the weight of your project, and all of this weight coming down is going to throw your tension off. So it's really being mindful of tension and how you're crocheting.
Right.
I try and crochet like the same circumstances every time, or you just need to be mindful of, hey, I need to do XYZ because last time I was doing this, and I just need to pay attention to how that's fitting. Or make sure you're measuring every few rows. So many people will measure once and then they'll finish their project and they're like, it totally didn't turn out, but my gauge was fine. I'm like, did you remeasure your gauge as you were
No.
working? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, then your gauge changed at some point.
Right.
You know, so there's just so many things that throw your gauge off. It's wild.
Yeah,
But
it is. It really is, especially with garments. I know I have a garment downstairs that I had just finished blocking. I was so excited to wear it. I got it done. It was dry. And I literally like cried because my front is like 2 inches shorter than my back
oh my
because my
goodness.
gauge changed, or I picked up the wrong hook, or I don't know what happened, but something happened along the way and it does not match. And now I feel like I have to rip the whole thing out because I don't know where I
Oh
went wrong. So yeah, that one's in timeout for right now. We'll get back to
yeah.
it a little later.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Checking gauge along the way is definitely good. And I know a lot of times designers will say, like, here's your gauge when it's blocked.
Yeah.
But what I also think is important for what you're saying is measure before you block your gauge swatch,
Yeah.
because then you'll know the difference between blocked and unblocked.
Mhm.
And then that'll help you as you're checking along the way to see
Yes.
what's going on to make sure you're hitting that pre-block gauge.
Yes. And then you can kind of, and if you want, you could even take that a step further and figure out like what percentage of increase you're going to get for, you know, your entire sweater. But yeah,
Right.
I usually do that too. I block, or I measure before and after I block my swatch and my garment, just to make sure that both are consistent.
Yeah.
And so, but then you also have some cases where your gauge swatch, even if you do a fairly large one, like a 6 inch, which is where all my patterns are based off of, is six
Yeah.
inch. Like you'll get your gauge of 4 inches, but the actual swatch pattern will be for 6 inches.
Right.
But even that, when you finish a whole sweater, sometimes
Mhm.
your gauge will change, even if, because what you sometimes have is like this bounce gauge where
Right.
things are pulling or whatever. As you get bigger, things
Mhm.
pull. So a lot of people they'll ask me if I want to change the width measurement, do I just measure my chain? I'm like, absolutely not. Your chain
No.
will like
Yes.
big time.
Never
And that's
measure your
the worst
chain.
measuring tool ever, is just to measure based on the length of your chain. I'm just like, no, 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 don't do
Yeah,
that.
you need to
Like
get
you're
at
gonna
least like
be
3, 4 rounds in there before you can measure
yes.
accurately.
Yes. And like you can even measure like after every few rows and see how much it's pulling. And again, take a percentage and determine like, okay, if I keep going, there's usually a certain point where it stops doing that.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say it's kind of high up,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But you can kind of figure out like, okay, how is this pulling? And
Right.
then see, you know, and so that is one challenge between like having a gauge swatch and then actually the difference between a full sweater, which is like your ginormous gauge swatch, but we
Right.
can't create a gauge swatch this big.
Right.
You know, so you
Right.
do the best
But a
you can.
lot of that math and figuring out is all done by the designer. That's why you want to meet their
Mhm.
gauge swatch,
Yes.
because therefore you should be very close to their finished measurements because they've already figured that out. They've already
Yeah.
made the garment and have checked it. So,
Yes. And my ultimate, I always do a gauge swatch, but then I also do I'll measure for a gauge swatch after I finish the whole piece to make sure that they're like cohesive. They're like on the same page as
mhm.
well. And if I have to make adjustments, I know I can.
Right.
Um, so sometimes my initial gauge swatch doesn't always stay what it is, you
Right.
know, depending on how things are moving as I'm working things up. So
Right.
Yeah.
Lindsay said here about with her good or expensive yarn that she doesn't actually cut the yarn after the gauge swatch. Then she frogs it so she can reuse it in her project, which is a
Yeah. Yeah.
great way to use it too.
Mhm.
I do that a lot too. I usually wait till the end to frog it, just like that's the last ball that I kind of go
Yeah.
for so that I have it in case that I need it.
Yeah.
And Tina also said, I'm guilty of not checking my gauge regularly throughout the project, but I always regret it. Yeah,
It's like the thing we don't want to do, but
right.
it really is worth it in the long run, especially when you're using high quality yarn,
Mhm.
that costs more than just like your average economy acrylic or something like that. Like if you're using high quality yarn and you have time intensive pieces, like getting it right is something I think you really want to do for something that's one very wearable but that turns out well, so that you're not, it doesn't end up sitting in your closet or you feel like you
Right.
wasted like $80 on yarn, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, so either that or go out and get a cheaper yarn, and maybe that's your practice piece, or if something that, but at the same time you got to consider that the project may not turn out as the designers did,
Yes.
because swapping fibers, that's a whole nother
Yeah.
the
We don't
whole
need to go in
nother
that
thing.
today.
Like, but yeah, so
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing this collection with us. I know I'm super excited. I can't wait to get started. Don't ask me what I'm starting on because I don't know which garment is going to be my first. I really need to sit down and plan this out. But don't forget, it's going to be launching. The Heritage Collection launches next week. And in those first 2 weeks, you'll be able to buy it with a discount of 30% off if you're buying the full collection, or 25% off if you're getting just the garments or just the accessories. And you'll be getting some free patterns with it as well if you purchase in those first 2 weeks. So the best thing to do is to go over to Instagram and follow the Cozy Knot, sign up for an email newsletter so that you're getting all of the information exactly when it launches. That's the best thing and the easiest way you're going to get the information. So thank
Mhm.
you so much, Tanya, for joining us and for building this beautiful collection. I can't wait to see people start making and sharing what they're doing.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like, you guys are always so supportive of what I'm doing, and like your yarn is just amazing. I use it for almost everything, and I just appreciate all the support. It's just
Aw.
thank
Well,
you.
we love working with you. Amazing. We will be back here next week. Please note, we had to move the live. It will not be on Wednesday. It will be on Thursday, but it will still be at the same time, but it is moving to Thursday next week. So you should get the notifications if you're subscribed of when things go live, but we'll see you next week. And by then you should be able to get the collection and you can let us know which one you're starting with first from the Heritage Collection. So see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.